With this video, I'm going to be covering the entire lesson of dividing and multiplying rational expressions. So I'll go through the entire thing. I'll give you a chance to practice a couple as well after demonstrating how to do the process. All right, so first we've got a little warm-up here. I want you to try these. You'll notice that I'm using fractions here. That's going to become key to what we're doing today. So go ahead and push pause right now. I'd like you to try these three problems. Then when you're ready to check your answers, come on back and push play. Check your answers here. Okay, so with multiplication, all we're basically doing is multiplying the top, then multiplying the bottom. So 1 times 2 is 2, 2 times 3 is 6, 2 sixths is 1/3 after we reduce it. With division, remember with division we have to multiply it by its reciprocal. So we basically change the sign of multiplication and we flip these two around. Okay, that's going to be key to what we're doing today. And then with factoring, we need two numbers that multiply together to give me -15, but add together to give me -2. That would be -5 and 3. All right, so the objectives today are we want to be able to find some common factors if we have any, factor those out, then we can cross them off on top and bottom. You'll get to see a little bit more on that. Then we're going to be multiplying and dividing different rational expressions. All right, so let's start. The very first thing you need to understand is that it follows the exact same rules as fractions. These are the fraction rules that you learn whenever you were in elementary school. We're going to apply these the same to these rational expressions. The difference here is that we're going to have variables in there. We're going to have x's and y's and m's. Any of those are fine. All right, so if we look at this one, this was our example problem, or our warm-up, I should say, on number 1. We multiply what's on top here. So I just take this straight across. 1 times 2, 2 times 3. I multiply what we call the numerators, that's what's on top, and the denominators, and that's what's on bottom. Then what we do is we just simplify it. Well, 1 times 2, those 2's cross off. Okay, those 2's cross off, leaving me just a 1 on top and a 3 on bottom. That gives me 1/3. Now we're going to do the exact same thing. Now, let's back up just a little here. Right here, because I had a 2 on top and bottom, and it's a multiplication in between, I can cross these two off. So that's what I just did. That gives me 1/3. Now, let's try with one that has a variable in it. So here are our variables. Our variable in this case is y. What we're going to do is just do the exact same process. This is y cubed is just y times y times y, and then times 2. We're just multiplying what's on top, multiplying what's on bottom. Now, I see that I have the same on top and bottom with my 2, so I cross those off. Next, I see that I have a y on top and bottom. I can cross these off because of this multiplication symbol. I'm okay there. That leaves me 2 y's on top over 3. Y times y gives me y squared over 3. That's my answer in this case. So you'll see it's basically the same premise. Now we're just adding some variables into it. Makes it more complex, there's no doubt. But as long as you can understand we're just using the same rules, and just take it slow, it won't be bad. So we'll get to use this whenever you're trying to calculate any sort of a car loan. You'll use that. This is your exact formula to determine what the interest rate is on a car loan. We'll get into more of that later on as we progress in this chapter. So here's what we want to do. Tip number 1, go slow. And it's going slow for a reason, and that sounds silly, but there's a lot to these problems. They're not necessarily difficult as long as you're going really slow and you're looking at each specific part as you go through it. Then we're going to factor each one of them completely. Okay, you'll see that when we get a little bit further on. If it's a quadratic, we're going to factor those. If it's just a 2-part, we're going to see if we can factor out anything out of them to make it a little bit easier. Then finally, we're just going to reduce them. But in order to reduce them, they have to have, and this is a multiplication sign in between them. So this is a good piece here. I have a lot of students usually write these down in their notes. That seems to help them. It's up to you whether you want to write those down or not. All right, so let's look at one here. We're going to do the exact same thing here. Multiplying the top and multiplying the bottom. So I've just sectioned all these off, and this is kind of what I mean by factoring these. This is 5 times 3 times y times y. 6 is 2 times 3 times 5, and then these 5's are 25. 5 times 5 times y. Doing this allows me to very easily start canceling stuff off top and bottom. So I'll do that right now, cross all those off. I have my 5's on top and bottom, I have a 3 on top and bottom, and I have a y on top and bottom. Well, now that we've crossed those off, it's very easy to see what we have left. We have a y left, and 2 times 5. 2 times 5 is 10, so it's just y over 10. All right, now this one is just a little bit more complicated only because it's got a division sign here. And remember with our division, all that really means is that we're going to take this first fraction, then change the sign to multiplication, and flip these two around. Now my 49 is going to go on top and my x is going to go on bottom. So that's my first step. I just flip those two around, multiplication, and then 49 over x. Now I'm going to do the same thing. 4x, I've got 49. I know 49 can be simplified. I can technically do this 2 times 2. That's fine too. I didn't only because I know that there's no 2 on the bottom to worry about. But you can do that. That's fine. I've got x's on top and bottom I can cross off. I've got 7's on top and bottom I can cross off. That leaves me with 28 on top. On the bottom is just a 1. 28 over 1 is just 28. All right, now let's get you to try a couple. I want you to try these two right now. So push pause now. I want you to work out the problem. Whenever you obtained your answer, come on back and push play, and then you can check your answer to make sure you got the right one. Check your answers here. Now, this one here, I do need to just talk about it just real quick. I have this one listed as x to the 5 minus 5. Sometimes that confuses students. A lot of you wrote just x times x times x times x 5 times, and then on the bottom you wrote x times x times x. You'll notice that all of those cancel. That's fine. This is using our rules of exponents. It's been a while since we've talked about those, but if you wanted to, you could use that as well. Notice on number 2, I did not do that. I just wrote them all out. That's fine. Either way that you want to do this is just fine. Both of them you will obtain the same answer because x to the 5 minus 5 is x to the 0 power. And anything to the 0 power is 1, so then it just kind of basically canceled out. But regardless of which method you chose, you should have obtained the correct answer, which is what I have circled here in red, either place. All right, now on this one here, it's one more extra step here. Let's go ahead and do this. It's multiplication. That means I multiply everything on top and let's multiply everything on bottom. So let's do that first. All right, so that's what I did, my m minus 5. Now I just look, this is all multiplication. Normally this subtraction prohibits me from just canceling these out. But because I can cancel it out as long as I can cancel out the entire quantity, in this case m minus 9. So I've got an m minus 9 on top and on bottom, so I'm going to cancel out those as long as my m minus 5 as well. I missed that, sorry. So I got an m minus 5 on top and bottom I cancel out, then my m minus 9 on top and bottom that I can cancel out. Now that I've got that, I'm left with 8m over 3m squared. So 8m over 3m squared, well I've got m's, I've got 1m on top and 2 on bottom, so I can cancel out both of those. I'm left with 1m on bottom. Or I can use my properties of exponents, which says that I take this top one, this is an exponent of 1, and subtract 1 minus 2, which gives me just a negative 1, which means it's 8 over 3m. If this portion here is too confusing and you don't like that, you don't have to use that. If you want to go right from here and just go 8 times m over 3 times m, cross off your m's, you're done. That's fine too. Most students find that to be easier. Either way is really okay. But either way, you'll get the same answer here. That's 8 over 3m. All right, I want you to try these two. So go ahead and push pause now. After you've obtained your answer, then come on back and push play. Check your answer here. Okay, those should have been fairly easy. Big thing is getting you to recognize the same on top and bottom. This a plus 8 is the same on top and bottom. Because we're crossing off the entire quantity, we're allowed to do that. This 8 and 2, however, cannot be crossed off because of the subtraction sign. So that prohibited us. It has to be the exact same on top and bottom, which is what we've got here with these parentheses. All right, now I'm going to have you try these two. And we haven't gone over a lot of these yet, but I'll give you a hint. On number 1, you're going to need to factor this one first. Factor it first. That will make your life a lot easier. This one here, see if there's a common factor you can pull out here. All right, go ahead and try these two. Push pause now. After you've obtained your answer, come on back and push play. Check your answer here. Perfect. So hopefully you realize that this one was v plus 3 times v plus 1. And that's times 1, so it's just, that's it. So then now we can see that we can cross off our v plus 3's. That just leaves me those two. Over here, we found out that 3n was a common factor. That left me with my n plus 7. We can cross those off, and the 3's as well, so it's just n over 2. All right. I've got a couple more here for you to try. Go ahead and try these. Push pause now. Whenever you're done, come on back and push play. Check your answers here. All right, so hopefully you're getting the feel of these now. These are almost as complicated as we get. We get one more layer here when we're factoring, but hopefully you're starting to get the feel for all of these. If we're going to divide, let's look at that. I've got this one here. In division, we're going to use the same rules we were going before. I'm going to change the sign to multiplication and then flip these two around. I'm going to have my n plus 5 on top and my n minus 9 on bottom. Okay, so I just change that sign to multiplication, flip those two around. Now we do the exact same thing. I multiply what's on top and multiply what's on bottom. So now you can see here quickly that you've got an n plus 5 on top and bottom. We can cross those off. That leaves me with an 4n over n minus 9. Now these two here we cannot cross off because of this subtraction sign. So because we're not crossing off the entire quantity, we cannot do that. We have to leave it alone. That is our answer. All right, so now let's go ahead and try these. If you're struggling with this a little bit, number 2 is much easier than number 1. Maybe you want to do that one first. That's up to you. But either way, go ahead and try both of these. Push pause now. Whenever you've obtained your answer, come on back and push play. Check your answers here. Okay, so this one here, hopefully you could identify that a 9n was our common factor, and you have to factor what's on bottom here. You'll notice it's a lot easier when you leave these just in factored form like this, because I know that I've got an n minus 2 up here and down here. I can start crossing these things off, and that makes my life a lot easier. You ended up with a 9n over 6, but that can be reduced. That's 3n over 2. All right, I want you to try these two now. Go ahead and try those. Push pause now, and after you've obtained your answer, come on back and push play. And these are about as difficult as we can get at the moment. I mean, we've got one that we've got to factor here, and the factoring on this one is a little bit more complex. Remember, to factor this one, we go a times c. So in this case, it would be a times c would be negative 12. Two numbers that multiply together to give me negative 12, but add together to give me positive 1. Well, that would be a 4 and a 3. And then you take out your common factor there. That's the Berry method. But anyway, hopefully that rings a bell for you at least a little bit. And same thing on number 2. Now, number 2, though, notice this one was multiplication, not division. So I just asked you to simplify here. This one's division, this one's multiplication, so we're not going to flip either one of these two. All right, try these two. And pay attention to the signs, whether it's multiplication or division. Go ahead and push pause now, and whenever you're ready, come on back and push play. Check your answers here. Hopefully you're starting to get the hang of the process, at least at this point. You may make some minor errors, and that's normal. That's okay. But as long as you're understanding the process as you get more practice, it will help you quite a bit. Now this one is a little bit different. I'd like you to try this one, only because you got to know how to factor x squared minus 16. So go ahead and do this one. Push pause now. Whenever you're ready, come on back and push play. Check your answer here. Hopefully you could identify that x squared minus 16 is x minus 4 times x plus 4. Okay, remember, two numbers that multiply together to give you c. C in this case is negative 16, but add together to give you b, and b in this case is 0. Okay, try these two, and these are about as worse as we get. I don't think I've got, even on your homework, none of them are quite this bad. So or not worse than this anyway. So try these two, push pause now, and then after you've obtained your answer, come on back and push play. Check your answer here. All right, so hopefully at this point you're getting pretty good at these. If you need to, you can go back in and rewatch the video, get some more practice on it. But that ends the video for now. I do have some extra problems that you can go back in and look at and maybe get a little bit more help as well.